Yo, what's up, everybody? This is going to be a recap of last week, week 6 in the college football world. Before you ask, yes, I am in my bathroom. Why? Because I'm in the middle of moving, and my wife works at home, so this is my way of not disturbing her. Disregard my background. It's just a bathtub. Just a bathtub. But anyway, moving right along. First, I'm going to go over what games we had in the SEC last week. First, we had South Carolina at Tennessee. Tennessee looked phenomenal in the first half. South Carolina just looked like they were sleepwalking. My prediction for that game was Tennessee 42, South Carolina 17. I almost got it perfectly on the dot. Both teams had 3 more points than I had predicted. Tennessee was up 38-7, I believe, at halftime. And then South Carolina went and scored 13 more points, and then Tennessee had to score another touchdown. That made the score 45-20. Tennessee's got a big game at home this week, but we'll get into that later tonight probably. I know I'm recording this awful late, like it's Friday before week 7 actually starts. Actually, I think week 7's pretty much already started. But I've been busy all week, so I'm posting this late. Or don't worry about it. Next game was 13th ranked Arkansas playing against 17 ranked Ole Miss. They were playing in Mississippi. My prediction was actually 27-20 Arkansas. Boy, was I wrong. Apparently, both teams came out playing strong. They were scoring points left and right. Ultimately, my prediction was wrong with the winner too. Arkansas ended up losing late. I didn't actually watch the game, but seeing the score, it kind of makes sense. Maybe Ole Miss scored on a late field goal. I don't know. But Arkansas lost 52-51. A whale of a game, I'm telling you. I wish I watched it, but I got watching the Tennessee game, obviously, because go Vols, baby. It came on at the same time as this game. But Ole Miss came in there, they were at home, and they won against a very good Arkansas team. Now you say, but they lost to Georgia last week, 37-0. They got shut out. That they did. They lost to Georgia, the number 1 team in the nation, and I'm pretty sure in anybody's top 25 or top 3, they've got Georgia. They've got a heck of a defense. They've got a heck of an offense. It's just hard to even play well against Georgia. But Arkansas came in here and they were like, we got to get over this loss. We got to show the SEC world that we are still a team. We are still relevant to the SEC. I think they proved that. A 1-point loss, yeah, maybe a loss, but I'd rather lose by 1 after getting shut out than to lose by 35 after getting shut out the week before. So I'd say Arkansas more than proved that they are still worthy to be in the top 25 rankings. The next game, Tennessee's little brother Vanderbilt in the swamp against 20 ranked Florida. I'm just gonna say right now, my prediction, 42-13 Florida, believe it or not, is wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong because Vanderbilt won. They did not. I guess Florida scored correctly. But I guess Vanderbilt was going to score more than what they actually did. The final score there was Florida 42. Vanderbilt goose egg. Vanderbilt they are 0-2 now in the SEC. Now get this. They've played Georgia, then they played Florida. Who remembers the score of the Vanderbilt-Georgia game? If you don't, that's fine. It really wasn't even a game. It was more so, I'm going to call it a Georgia Bulldog practice. Georgia came in to Athens, hosted the Vanderbilt Commodores, and literally went to town. 62-0. Vanderbilt is yet to score a single point in the SEC, and that honestly blows my mind. I mean, not the fact that they're 0-2, but the fact that they've given up, 104 points in 2 games and haven't scored a single point, not even a field goal. Like, they got to figure that out. Or they're going to go, what are they at now? Their record is 2-4. 2-4. We've still got week 7, 8, 9, 10, the rest of the season left. They could only walk out of here with 2 wins. As much as I hate to say it, Vanderbilt, they're not, I don't even think they should be a team anymore. They're kind of like the Kansas Jayhawks of the SEC. Every other team in the SEC has Vanderbilt games circled. If they don't figure it out, they're going to be like that for a long time. But Florida came in there, into the swamp, and said, we're just going to play. And that's what they did. They walked out of there with a win, 42-0. The next game was probably the biggest game in the SEC. Number 2 Georgia at the time, playing in Auburn against the 18th ranked Auburn Tigers. My prediction, Georgia was going to win 56-31. I was thinking, hey, they scored 62 last week. Granted, it was against Vanderbilt, but you know what? That's okay. So I was thinking they were going to do this again against Auburn. I mean, they're not Vanderbilt, but they're pretty close. Georgia ended up getting the win 34-10. I mean, what more do you need to say? Georgia is just a great team all around this year. They're doing this with a backup. They've got a ton of injuries, and they're still out there performing like they are the number 1 team in the nation, which they are, with a backup. Can you imagine the damage that they'd be doing in the college football world if they had their starter in? Holy cow. 34-10 in a hostile environment at Auburn. Next game, I'm not even going to say much about this. North Texas at Missouri. Not an SEC game, but I predicted Missouri was going to win 35-10. It was a little closer than I predicted. Missouri won 48-35. That's only 13 points. And I said they were going to win by 25. Missouri needs to figure out some stuff too. They got destroyed by Tennessee last week, which, hearing those words, got destroyed by Tennessee, feels kind of weird to say, coming from a Tennessee fan. But Missouri needs to figure out stuff on offense. They need to figure out stuff on defense. Because if you're going to beat North Texas by 13, you got some problems. And I'm sure they'll figure them out before this week's game. The next game was at 7:30, night game, obviously. LSU at the time 16 ranked Kentucky. I mean, who thought Kentucky was going to be as good as they are this year? They are now, after last week, 6-0, because I predicted that they were going to beat LSU, but only by 3. I was going to say, I said they were going to win 34-31. I was wrong. Kentucky basically said, LSU, you don't belong here, and we're just going to send you back on your way with another loss in your column. Kentucky won that game 42-21. The Kentucky Wildcats, let me say that again. The Kentucky Wildcats beat the LSU Tigers 42-21. LSU has not been anything good since Joe Burrow and I think his name was Joe Brady, since they got drafted to the NFL. That was 2019 when they went 16-0, 14-0, whatever their record was after the national championship. They won the national championship, had an undefeated season, and then 2020 came around and they got flushed. There's nothing more to say. And they hadn't come back out of that hole. Coach Orgeron, may not have a job after the season. I'm not one to root for coach firings because that's not me. Not saying I'm rooting for Coach O to get fired because I'm not. But Coach Orgeron may not have a job if this keeps up. And I mean, LSU right after last week's game was 3-3. 3-3. This is the LSU Tigers we're talking about. One of the better teams in the SEC, and they've played on high levels for years. But now they're just kind of meh. They're middle of the road. They're unranked. They're sitting at 500 right now in their record. And they got destroyed by the Kentucky Wildcats. In years past, could you ever imagine saying the LSU Tigers went into Lexington, Kentucky, and walked out of there with their tail between their legs? I don't think so. I would have never even thought that. Granted, I'm not taking any credit away from Kentucky. They are undefeated, and they are playing on a high level. I know they've been getting better over the years, at least since 2018, whenever they went undefeated for so long and then lost and then lost and then won and then lost. So they're not as bad as they used to be like years ago. They're definitely way better, and I think they could go for a while looking good. They may get a loss this weekend, but I'll get into that later. Anyway, Kentucky destroyed LSU 42-21. The last game of the night, number 1 Alabama playing at Kyle Field against the unranked Texas A&M Aggies. I figured it was going to be close, but I figured Alabama was going to come in here, they were going to win by a touchdown, and they were going to move on to next week. Ranked maybe 1, maybe 2. I don't know. I was wrong. I was watching the end of this game. I was walking out Walmart, and I was watching a little bit of the first half on my phone. And they were losing 24-10, I think. 24-10. I was like, holy cow. Could the Aggies actually beat the Tide tonight? I didn't think they were. I didn't think it. I was just thinking this is normal Alabama. If they're down at halftime, they come back in the second half and they're a whole new team. I don't know how it works. I don't know what they do. But Nick Saban goes back there into the locker room and they turn everything around. Well, they didn't do that this week. They came back. They tied it up with A&M. I was watching it with my dad. And both of us were saying, Texas A&M is going to go mess around and they're going to lose this game. After leading the entire 4 quarters, they're going to lose this game. And Alabama's just going to walk out there like, see, just doing Alabama things. But they didn't. Texas A&M got a stop. They played well. And they got the win, 41-38 on a last-second field goal. I mean, if I'm a Texas A&M fan and I'm watching this game, you better believe I'm coming unglued with this upset. I mean, pretty much the entire stadium ran out on the field. I don't know if you all watched it, but the kicker's wife was stunned for a second, and then she realized, holy cow, I gotta get down to the field. I gotta meet my husband. I gotta, holy cow, we just beat Alabama. I didn't watch all of it, but from looking at the stats and hearing Nick Saban talk right before halftime, Alabama played terrible. Penalties, turnovers. I'm pretty sure I remember him saying something about giving up a special teams touchdown, which could be a punt return or a kick return. Whatever it was, it went all the way to the end zone. So Alabama got beat. That shows that they are definitely human. They're not perfect. They can be beaten. And, after last year being undefeated, everybody's like, Alabama's just going to go out here next season and run the table. They're going to go undefeated again. They're going to win another national championship in a row. And it's just going to be continuation of Nick Saban Alabama dynasty. Well, Texas A&M basically said, nah, put an end to that. We're gonna stop that right now. So Texas A&M walks out of there feeling high and mighty after beating Goliath, pulling a major upset against Alabama. Now, whenever I post my Week 7 video, I want to talk about the rankings for the SEC teams, and I want to explain something about this game that I honestly don't agree with. I don't. But anyway, and then Mississippi State obviously had a bye week, so they come off of a win against Texas A&M. They get to rest up. They get to work on some other things that they may need to work out, and they'll get ready for this week. But that's all for the SEC teams this week. The top 25. There were a few losses. There were a few stunners. Main games that I want to talk about is the Oklahoma-Texas game and the Iowa-Penn State game. Those are the two ones that I pinpointed last week. I didn't give a big prediction on any of these. I said Penn State was going to win by 3, and that's it. I think I said Oklahoma was going to win maybe by 14, I don't know. I gave both teams a little too much credit. Oklahoma and Texas. I was watching a little bit of this game first. I was flipping back and forth between my game and that game because commercials. I can't sit there and watch commercials. Oh my goodness. But I was thinking, holy cow, is this Oklahoma getting destroyed? Getting run over by the Texas Longhorns? It was. I don't remember what the score was at halftime, but it was not even close. Spencer Rattler apparently was playing questionable. He was good. He was bad. The Oklahoma fans already don't like him. They booed him last week and requested to put the backup in, which is crazy to me. But then the second half came around, and it turned into a shootout. It turned into the Red River shootout that they changed the name to. And Oklahoma they put their backup in, Caleb Williams, and he played a heck of a game. He had a bad snap. He picked it up. He threw a pass. Completed it. But he had to lead a comeback. A 28-point comeback to get the win 55-48 in a game that Texas was supposed to win. If they continue to play like they did in the first half, Texas was supposed to win that game. And they gave it all up. Simple as that. College game day was there, so you know it was a big game. Everybody was looking at it. Everybody was like, hey, the Red River rivalry again. Hey, let's do this. Oklahoma, Texas. Yeah, and Oklahoma fans doing this. I still don't know what this means. If somebody could explain that to me, I'd appreciate it. Because I don't know what that means. But Oklahoma got the win 55-48. Now, Iowa and Penn State. I said Penn State was going to win by 3. I said this game could possibly be a college football playoff elimination game. Whoever wins this could make it to the playoff. Whoever loses is probably going to be out. Because Big Ten, they don't have a very strong schedule left. They've got maybe both of them, or Penn State at least, has 3 big games left, and they could lose all 3. They could win 1, they could win 2, they could win all 3. But one of those is Ohio State, and it's going to be a heck of a game. But Iowa came in there. It was a close game. It was a 3-point deficit, so I got the margin of victory right. But it was flip-flopped. Iowa Hawkeyes, the number 3 team in the nation at the time, came in there. I don't remember where they were at. Were they in Iowa or were they in Happy Valley? Give me 1 second. They were in Iowa. So they were hosting the Penn State Nittany Lions. So they were sitting in their own stadium and they said, hey, we know the number 4 team in the nation is coming into town. We know that they're good. We know that this game could end up going either way. But we're going to stop them right here and we're going to play some Iowa Hawkeye football. And we're going to slow down the momentum of the Penn State Nittany Lions. And that's exactly what they did. I believe it went back and forth all night or all game long. And then Iowa came out on top in the fourth quarter with a 3-point win, 23-20. So Penn State potentially might be out of the playoff. Iowa potentially could be in the playoff. But who knows? Iowa could lose a game. They could win out. But if they don't have impressive wins, they could lose their spot in the top 4 right before the playoff game. Who knows? I don't know. I can't tell the future. But I believe the Iowa Hawkeyes can run the table in the Big Ten, win a Big Ten championship game, which they probably have to play Ohio State if it goes the way people think it will. And then that could vault them into the top 4. That could put the Iowa Hawkeyes in the college football playoffs in the year 2021 undefeated. Whoever thought that they would ever hear the Iowa Hawkeyes are ranked in the top 4 and undefeated? I know I didn't. I mean, right now they're sitting at 6-0. I believe they're ranked 2nd now, which blows my mind anyway because they were 3rd, now they're 2nd. It's the Iowa Hawkeyes. They are playing way better than they have in a long time. They're playing way better than the country thought they would because, again, it's Iowa. They're shutting up the negative talkers, the ones that run their mouth, that are like, oh, Iowa is just, They are putting those people to sleep. Not in a boring kind of way, because they are, from what I hear, they are not a boring team whatsoever. They are exciting to watch. I should have watched this, but Saturdays that's my day for Tennessee games, and maybe, I was with I was waiting for my parents to come in. But Iowa, man, the top 4 undefeated. Mind blowing. This season has been wild. We've got teams ranked in the top 10 that we never would have seen in years past. Heck, even top 11. I mean, week 7, top 25, you've got Iowa at number 2, Cincinnati at 3, Alabama at 5 now. Who thought that would ever happen again? Michigan is at 8, Michigan State's 10, and then Kentucky, 11th. Where did they come from? Coastal Carolina is still kind of middle of the road. They're at 15th. That's where they were last week. BYU just lost. Okay, since I'm bringing BYU up and their loss, the losses were teams that were probably supposed to win, except for minus Arkansas and maybe Auburn. Texas and Oklahoma could have gone either way, but Oklahoma came out with that win. Alabama wasn't supposed to lose; they come away with a loss. Iowa came away with a win. Penn State that game could have went either way, but Penn State came away with the loss there. BYU, who'd they lose to? I'm pretty sure they lost to Boise State. They did. BYU was ranked 10th. They were undefeated going into this game, and I was thinking that Boise State was going to come in there, I thought BYU was going to come in there and they were going to get the job done and walk away with a W, but they didn't. Boise State basically said, we ain't scared of a top 10 team. We're going to come in here, we're going to play some Boise State Bronco football, and we're going to walk out here with a dub, potentially. And they did. They won 26-17. I mentioned Arkansas and Ole Miss. Arkansas walked away with a loss there by 1 point. Great game, 52-51, just in case you forgot. Auburn walked in there and they walked out with an L. to Georgia by 24. No surprise. Texas lost to Oklahoma. What is going on in this college football season? I mean, we've got teams playing well that we haven't seen play well in a long time. We've got teams playing terrible that we haven't ever thought would play terrible. We've got some teams that are kind of still the same as before. And then we've got some teams that are up and down. Up and down. SEC teams that are up and down. Texas A&M, Arkansas. I'm going to say Auburn. Maybe Florida. Yeah. Teams that are playing terrible, like we've seen them before, in the SEC would be Vanderbilt, obviously, South Carolina, obviously, Missouri, definitely, and I think that's it. LSU, they've been there for 2 years now, or 1 year, no, 2 years because you'd consider this the second year. Teams that are playing good that we haven't seen play good in a long time. Tennessee, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Arkansas. I'd say that's it. Teams that are playing well, that's always played well, Georgia, Florida, Alabama. That's it. And then Mississippi State just kind of, they're Mississippi State. They pulled an upset against Texas A&M 2 weeks ago. They're now 1-1 in the SEC. They're playing decent, but not like eye-popping wow factor games. In the top 25 from this past week, we saw some losses that we didn't think we would ever see in any week. Alabama being one of those big losses that we would never thought we would see this year. I was kind of predicting that they would go undefeated. They'd go into the SEC championship game in Atlanta, and they'd walk out of there with a win, play in the top playoffs again, and maybe even win a national championship again. Do I want to see that happen? Absolutely not, because I don't like the Crimson Tide. I don't, but I can't argue the fact that they are a great team. Anyway, other teams that we've seen lose. Ohio State lost to Oregon in the Horseshoe. That's a stadium that it's always hard to play in because the fans are always rowdy and it's always loud in the Horseshoe, and it's probably one of the loudest stadiums in the country. Let's see here. Oregon, they've been kind of up and down since losing the national championship to Ohio State with Mariota. They've got a loss. They lost to Stanford this year, which I thought after they beat Ohio State, they were going to go undefeated because that means they're great. They can win games, and they're going to win games. But they had a bye week last week, so they were safe there. But after losing to Stanford, they dropped 5 positions. They went from 3rd to 8th. 3rd to 8th. That is wild. Teams in the top 25 last week that we didn't think were going to play good. Arkansas, number 1, obviously. They were ranked 13th this past week. They were 8th. They were ranked as high as 8th. And then they went into Athens and just got mollywopped. And then dropped to 13. They're 4-5 or 4-2 now. They were 4-1 going into last week. Notre Dame, they lost to, I don't remember who they lost to, but they lost one game, and they actually lost week 5, I believe. Hold on. Notre Dame lost to the Cincinnati Bearcats. That's another team that we had never thought. Cincinnati, going into last week, was ranked 5th. Undefeated. Going in to host the Temple Owls. And one of the YouTubers that I follow, Uncle Lou, if you don't follow anybody else, if you don't follow me, that's fine. But if you don't follow anybody else who talks college football, Follow Uncle Lou. He is great at explaining things. He's a Georgia fan, but you would not even know it. He is not biased. He doesn't just say Georgia's going to come out here every year and win. He doesn't. He breaks everything down, and he's a great guy to watch. He says one thing that sticks with me everywhere or every week. When you play bad teams, all you can do is blow them out. Cincinnati played Temple, terrible team. They blew them out 52-3. Who else was there? Ohio State played Maryland, 66-17. They got their win. Coastal Carolina played Arkansas State. They blew them out 52-20. I'm not even going to say LSU's a bad team. They're bad this year, yeah. But Kentucky came in there and blew them out 42-21. Georgia, 34-10 over Auburn. That's kind of a terrible team that you're supposed to blow out. I mean, Auburn's been up and down all season. And then Florida, 42-0 against Vanderbilt. Obviously, that's supposed to be a blowout. I mean, no question about it. Arizona State could have went either way. San Diego State, I don't really know if you want to call them a good team. I mean, they're decent. They're undefeated. And they did beat a terrible New Mexico team 31-7. So when you play terrible teams, you're just supposed to blow them out. Even Tennessee played a terrible South Carolina game, or terrible South Carolina team last week, and blew them out. I mean, it looked like it was going to be closer, but it ended up being a 25-point loss, or 25-point win. Technically, that's a blowout. When they played Missouri, they blew them out. But yeah, week 6 was crazy. We've seen the upset of the century, I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to make a change real fast. Hold on. Somehow I've deleted some words here. But yeah. We're going to later... no, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. This is going to be a long video. I'm sorry. Bear with me. I'm late, so I got to pay my price and go on. Week 7 is going to be probably another big week in the college football world. First, I'm going to tell you the top 25. I'm going to just say who they're going to play. And then I'll tell you the big game. And since it's an SEC team, or SEC game, I'm going to pick another team or another game that looks like it's going to be a big one. Okay. Number 1, Georgia Bulldogs, 6-0. They move up one spot. They will be hosting the 11th or 11 Kentucky Wildcats. Iowa Hawkeyes are 6-0. They move up a spot. They're playing against Purdue. Cincinnati, also undefeated. They moved up 2 spots. They're playing against the UCF Knights this week. Oklahoma, also 6-0. They moved up 2 spots as well. They are hosting the TCU Horned Frogs. Okay, the Alabama-Texas A&M game. This is where I don't agree with the polls. Alabama was ranked number 1. I don't care how close this game was. I don't care. A loss to an unranked team is still a loss, and they look terrible at it. You can't lose to Texas A&M, who is a terrible team, if you're number 1. If you're Alabama, you just cannot. And they had too many penalties. They had too many mistakes. They didn't play like Alabama. And watching the game, you could see Nick Saban's face. He even thought the same thing. This is not the Crimson Tide football that I know. This is not the Crimson Tide football that everybody else in the country knows. They should not be ranked 5th. I'm sorry. All you Alabama fans can throw shade at me. I don't mind. I don't care. Just throw it. They should not be ranked 5th. You lose to an unranked Texas A&M as number one, and you dropped 4 spots? You gotta be kidding me. And it's not like they stayed top 5 with style points, because they didn't. You played that bad and only dropped 4 points. 4 spots, whatever. I mean, I don't get that. I really don't. I mean, even Iowa, when they beat Penn State only dropped 3. That makes sense, because Iowa was 3, and Penn State was 4. It's hard to drop down a lot of spots when you lose to a team ranked 1 spot above you. But Alabama should not be ranked 5th. I'm sorry. This week, they're playing in Mississippi State against the Bulldogs. Mississippi State's coming off a bye week. They're unranked. Their last game was an upset over Texas A&M. How many people think Mississippi State can pull this upset? Unfortunately, I don't think they can. I hope they do. Just as a Tennessee fan, I hope they pull the upset, because that would be awesome to see Alabama lose 2 games in a row, let alone 2 games in a season. But they're playing against Mississippi State, and the Bulldogs will be hosting them. Number 6 has a bye week. That's Ohio State. The Ohio State Buckeyes, they are 5-1. They actually moved up 1 spot after week 6 since Penn State lost, which they're the next rank. 7 is the Penn State Nittany Lions. They are now 5-1 after getting beat by Iowa. They dropped 3 spots. They also get to sit at home and lick their wounds and enjoy a bye week. Can you really enjoy a bye week after a loss, though? No matter who it's to, no matter how many or how close it is, can you really enjoy a bye week after a loss? I don't think so. Because your coach is going to be working you hard to figure out some things that you might have messed up in the week before. But Penn State's going to get to work for sure. I'm sure they've been doing work all week, considering it's Friday now. Anyway, moving on. Number 8 is the Michigan Wolverines. 6-0 Michigan Wolverines. They moved up a spot. They too have a bye week. You know they're going to enjoy it because they don't have any losses. They're probably going to work on a couple things that they need to tweak out before next week. But they've got a bye week this week. Number 9 is the Oregon Ducks. They're 4-1. Obviously, their 1 loss came to Stanford. They already paid their ranking price for that. They dropped down 1 spot after last week just because they had a bye week, and Michigan did not. They played and won. Oregon will be hosting the California Golden Bears tonight, actually, at 10:30. Am I going to stay up and watch that game? Probably not. As much as I would like to pull for Oregon, I just 10:30 is late. It is late, boy. I tell you what, those West Coast games are hard on people on the East Coast like me. They're hard. 10:30, that's late. Anyway, moving on to number 10, it's the Michigan State Spartans. I'm going to say that again. Ranked 10, the Michigan State Spartans, 6-0. They moved up a spot after their win over Rutgers last week. They won 31-13. That was a bad team that they were supposed to blow out, and they kind of did. This week, they are playing in Indiana against the Hoosiers. I feel like that's going to be a cakewalk, but when you're playing conference games, no game is a cakewalk. Ask Alabama. They lost to Texas A&M last week. That's not just a conference game, but that's a division game. That was an SEC West game. So that could go either way. I mean, I feel like Michigan State's going to just own the field and walk out of there with a big win. But I never want to say stuff like that because it could go either way. We already mentioned the 11th ranked Kentucky Wildcats. They are 6-0. They moved up 5 spots after beating LSU last week. They're going to be playing in Athens against the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. That's the big game this week. 1 versus 11. You can't get much bigger than that. 1 versus 11 in the SEC. Whew. I'm not biased. I could be saying this as a Pac-12 fan, a Big Ten fan. It don't matter. I feel the SEC is the best conference. And looking at records earlier of the SEC versus all the other conferences, there's only one that they've got a losing record to, and it's probably one that they don't play very often. I don't remember what it was, but they were 25. Oh, the Big East. They're 25-29. It could have been 25-30 if Cincinnati beat Georgia in their bowl game last year, but obviously they didn't. That's the only one that they have a losing record in. Everything else, they have like over 20 more wins than they have losses. They got some ties. So I think the SEC is the best conference, and having a top 15 matchup with the number 1 and the 11th team, you can't get much bigger than that. The big game in the top 25 that's not Kentucky and Georgia involves the number 12 Oklahoma State Cowboys. They are undefeated. They are playing against Texas in Texas. Texas is ranked 25th. That's going to be a great game, I'm sure. And I'll talk a little bit more about that one in a second. Number 13 are the Ole Miss Rebels. They are 4-1. They moved up 4 spots after beating Arkansas last week. They are playing in Knoxville. And I'm a part of a Vol for Life page on Facebook. And all the fans are, of course, we're talking smack. We've got a great team this year. I wouldn't say great. We've got a better team than we've had in a long time. Coach Heupel's got us going in the right direction. But all these fans are talking about how loud the stadium's about to be. 102,000 fans screaming. Plus, we're playing against one of our ex-coaches. I don't know if you know this, but the coach of Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. They are riding the Lane train for sure. We jumped off that thing a long time ago, and now we're gonna let them come into our stadium, and I think we can get a win. I honestly do. Looking at some of the stats for Ole Miss compared to Tennessee, their run game, not there. Ours is. Their throw game is there. Ours is, we're still trying to find our wings in the passing game. But our defense is good. Our offense is pretty good. Ole Miss, they're just kind of skating by. Just skating by. If you want to be honest, they're skating by. They were supposed to have a closer game against Bama a couple weeks ago and got mollywopped. It was 42-21. I think Tennessee can walk out of or stay in Knoxville and walk out of that stadium with a victory. I hope they do, and if they do, they should be in the top 25. They better be, because if not, that's crazy. Ranked 14th are the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They're 5-1. They get a bye week this week. They didn't move any spots. They were 14th last week. They're 14th this week. 15th, the Coastal Carolinas Chanticleers. I love that this team is good. I love that this team is undefeated. I love that this team is ranked. It's one of those underdog teams that you're just like, Coastal Carolina, who? They're undefeated. They're ranked 15th. They get a bye week this week. And they are playing some great football. They've played cupcake teams, but they've blown them all out, pretty much. But I'm glad that they're playing great. They are a team that's up and coming, and they are coming. They are coming. Unfortunately, they're in a conference that don't get much love. So, will they be in the top 10? In the top 10? I don't know. Probably not. But I don't think they're going to see a playoff for a long time. They're going to have a whole bunch of teams that are in bigger conferences lose for them to be up in the top 4. Maybe if we expand the playoff to 12 teams instead of just 4, they might have a bigger shot. But I don't see them getting much higher than at least 12. Ranked 16th, this team is a shocker. Ranked 16th is the only undefeated team of the SEC, or of the ACC, the Wake Forest Deacons. Whoever would have thought that the Wake Forest Demon Deacons would be undefeated and ranked, let alone the only undefeated team left in the ACC. Because, the ACC has been run by Clemson and North Carolina, and I guess you can say Miami, they've kind of fallen off. Wake Forest has been at the bottom for years. I remember everybody talking about Wake Forest getting blown out week after week after week after week, maybe getting some wins here and there, but they're undefeated, boy. And from what I hear, they are playing great. They're not playing like Wake Forest like we've seen in years past. They get a bye week this week. Coastal Carolina gets a bye week as well. They didn't move any spots after their blowout win last week. Wake Forest moved up 3. They are 6-0. We get a bye week. Arkansas Razorbacks ranked 17th. They dropped 4 after getting beat by 1 point to Ole Miss. They are hosting the Auburn Tigers this week. Ranked 18th is the Arizona State Sun Devils. They moved 4 spots. Excuse me. They moved up 4 spots. They're playing in Utah against the Utes this weekend. And I'm going to talk a little bit more on that one too, because they're on a list that I think I'm going to start doing every week. Ranked 19th, they dropped 9 spots. BYU, they're playing at Baylor this week. I don't want to say that's going to be a Baylor win, but I think it could be. Ranked 20th, they are 4-2. They didn't move after last week. They're playing in Death Valley against the LSU Tigers, and that's the Florida Gators. I'm sorry to say, but I think Florida's going to have this one in their back pocket. They're just going to walk in there, they're going to trample over LSU, and then they're going to leave. They're going to leave. But they're ranked 20th, and they play in Baton Rouge against the LSU Tigers. Ranked 21st. This is one of those ranks that I don't agree with again. Ranked 21st is Texas A&M. Now, hear me out. I'm proud, or I'm happy that they did get into the top 25 after beating Bama. But my personal opinion, I think when you're unranked and you beat the number 1 team in the nation, I guess you can have them at number 2 as well. But when you play the number 1 ranked team in the nation as an unranked team, I think you should move far up the polls. 21, that's only 5 spots in. 5 spots. Maybe it's because they're 4-2 and it wasn't that big of a win. But 1 point wins are wins. It don't matter if it's 3 points, 1 point, 7 points, 50 points, 100 points. A win's a win. And they won against Alabama. And they're only ranked 21st. I don't agree with that. They should be at least 17. But that's just me. They play against the Missouri Tigers in Missouri this week. NC State, by the way, Texas A&M is probably going to be they're going to be flying high, so I feel sorry for Missouri. They might just get smacked around in their own stadium. But anyway, ranked 22nd, the NC State Wolfpack. They moved up 1 spot. That's a team that I was not expecting to do what they've done. They upset Clemson back, week 3 or so. In overtime, that was a great game. I did watch a lot of that one. They moved up 1 spot. They are playing at Boston College this weekend. Ranked 23rd, the undefeated SMU Mustangs. They've got a bye week this week, but they are 6-0 and sitting at 23rd. They moved up a spot after last week. Ranked 24th, also undefeated. They are playing at San Jose State this week. That's the San Diego State Aztecs. They've been a team that's been up here lately. I've seen them in the top 25 as high as, I want to say 19th, but that's the highest that I've ever seen them. They're working on it again. They're in 24th. Do I think that they can have a day with San Jose State? Yes, I think they can. I haven't seen any of their games. I haven't even seen how well they've been playing, but they're undefeated. Obviously, they're doing something right. but they're playing in San Jose State this week. And I've already talked about this team. They're ranked 25th. They're hosting the 12th ranked Oklahoma State. That's the Texas Longhorns. All right. Since we got that down, Texas actually dropped four spots after last week's loss. Okay. I'm going to actually start with this list that I'm going to start doing. I'm going to be putting some teams on upset alert. In my eyes, these teams that are on this list, I think are potential upsets that we could see. In order, Michigan State. I don't know how well Indiana's playing, but I'm putting Michigan State on an upset alert because they are playing in Indiana. And they might get a little cocky, and when I see teams get cocky, they end up walking out of the stadium with a loss. So Michigan State's on upset alert. Next is the 12th ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. They are playing in a hostile environment against the Texas Longhorns, who were up and down, yes. But after seeing what they did to Oklahoma last week, and feeling the sting of an Oklahoma or a loss to Oklahoma, they might just bring it on for Oklahoma State. The Oklahoma State Cowboys are undefeated, yes, but they haven't played Texas yet. Now, I know you're going to say something like, but they got blown out by Arkansas. Arkansas's a great team. I mean, Texas was week 2. Week 2, it doesn't matter. Since then, they've put on a heck of a show. They've scored a lot of points against teams that they were supposed to blow out, and they did. This week, they're playing Oklahoma State. They're not going to blow them out, that's for sure. But I think Texas can pull that upset. Next team, Ole Miss. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Tennessee fan. I'm saying this because Tennessee's played some good football, and they're in Knoxville. I think Tennessee can get this win over a ranked Ole Miss Rebels, and they're going to get an upset. Will the Tennessee fans storm the field, though? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But Tennessee, or the Neyland Stadium is going to be in the checkerboard with the fans wearing orange and white. In certain spots, it's going to be a big giant checkerboard around the field. It's a cool looking feature. I love that Tennessee does stuff like that. They've got some LED lights or something around the stadium that's going to be like flashing and stuff. I don't agree with that because that's just weird. But Tennessee fans are riding high on this Tennessee Volunteers team right now. And when we ride high on a team, we are loud, and it's so hard to get plays called to your quarterback. I seen a meme on Facebook that said Lane Kiffin's basically going to be texting his quarterback the plays because they're not going to be able to hear him. But I think Tennessee can get this upset. Next is Arkansas. They've lost 2 games in a row. They might be feeling a little bit down, and I feel like Auburn can jump all over that. I don't want to say Auburn's definitely going to get the upset. I don't want to say Arkansas is going to definitely be terrible. They might be angry and just destroy Auburn and not even worry about an upset. But I've got Arkansas on upset alert. Next is Arizona State. They're playing at Utah, actually. Yeah, they're playing at Utah. The only reason I say any of these teams are on upset alert is because they're like less than a 10-point favorite. Like Ole Miss is a 2.5-point favorite over Tennessee. I say Arizona State and Utah because Arizona State and Utah, nobody's a favorite. They're just even. It can literally go either way. And I think Utah can pull that upset. They've played big games this week or this year, and they've won those big games. Plus, they lost I think they lost a player or a student. They lost somebody tragically who's affiliated with the university, and they've been playing their hearts out for this person. So I feel sorry for the Sun Devils because they're probably going to get the Ute smoke this week. Hold on. My computer just logged me out. The next team, BYU. They're playing at Baylor. I think Baylor can come away with that win. I feel like they can. Then the last team that I have on upset alert, NC State. They're playing at Boston College. Boston College isn't the greatest team, but they play well, and they're feisty. Well, I'm just gonna say that they are feisty. They're fiery. They want to get wins, and they're feisty. What other way is there to say it? So I feel like they could pull the upset against NC State. College game day is going to be in Athens for the Kentucky-Georgia game. No surprise there, because ESPN apparently loves the SEC a lot. Teams who need to show out to stay in the running for the college football playoff. I've only got 3 teams on there, but it's the number 2 Iowa Hawkeyes. They need to show up and show out. Cincinnati Bearcats, ranked 3rd. They also need to show up and show out. And then the 9th ranked Oregon Ducks. With that loss, it's going to be really hard to get back up in the top 5, especially with the other teams that have no losses or 1 loss. They need to show up and show out, at least from here on out. They need to win the Pac-12, and then maybe they'll have a shot at the college football playoff. 3 games that matter to the college football playoff race. UCF at Cincinnati. Unfortunately, UCF has really no chance of winning this game. They've got a 10% chance to beat Cincinnati. Yes, that's a chance, but it's a very low chance. Cincinnati has a 90% chance. TCU at Oklahoma. TCU has an 18% chance to win this game. Oklahoma has an 82% chance. I think Oklahoma's going to get that win. They're going to cover and just walk out of their own stadium and just go home and chill after a win. Alabama at Mississippi State. As crazy as it sounds, it matters. It matters. It matters. Mississippi State can beat Alabama, and we won't even see Alabama in the playoffs. We may not even see them in the SEC championship game. Can you imagine the SEC championship game without the Alabama Crimson Tide? Can you imagine the college football playoffs without the Alabama Crimson Tide? No, I know I can't. But that's the top 25, and that's my teams on upset alerts. I'm not gonna say any of those teams are gonna get beat, but they are definitely on the upset alert for this week in my eyes. Ranked SEC teams. There's seven of them again. You've got the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs, 6-0. Number 5 Alabama Crimson Tide, 5-1. 11 Kentucky Wildcats, 6-0. 13th ranked Ole Miss Rebels, they're 4-1. 17th Arkansas Razorbacks, 4-2. 20th Florida Gators, they're also 4-2. And the 21st Texas A&M Aggies, they're also 4-2. It's going to be another crazy week for college football. I can just feel it. Week 7 games for the SEC. You've got Auburn at Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to walk away with a win, even though I've got them on my upset alert list. I think they're going to walk out of there with a win. They're playing at home. They're playing great. I think they're going to get the 24-17 win. Then we got the Florida Gators at LSU Tigers. LSU's been off the map for a year now, and they're still trying to find their way. They've lost their way when they lost Joe Burrow, and they just haven't found it yet. I think Florida's going to get this win 35-21. Texas A&M at Missouri, coming off a big win against Alabama. You know they're going to be flying high. Texas A&M is going to come away with this win 45-38. That's just what I see. Those 3 games are at 12 o'clock tomorrow. 3:30 game tomorrow. The 11th ranked Kentucky Wildcats at number 1 Georgia Bulldogs. I think it's going to be. I don't want to say it's going to be a close game, but I don't want to say it's going to be a blowout. But I think Kentucky's going to make a few mistakes down the road in the second half. It's going to turn into a 45-24 loss. That's my prediction. Georgia's just a great team. They've blown out 2 ranked teams now, Arkansas and Auburn. Shutting out Arkansas, obviously. Vanderbilt at South Carolina. Not even worth talking about much, but this game is at 4 o'clock, and I think South Carolina can get their first SEC win. It's going to be kind of tight. They're going to win it 31-10 because Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. Everybody's got them circled on their maps or on their calendars. But I think South Carolina gets that win. The 7 o'clock game is Alabama at Mississippi State. Bama's going to be mad. They're going to be angry, and they're going to take it out on these poor Mississippi State Bulldogs. I think Bama's going to get the win 42-13, and they're going to go into next week looking for more wins. And then at 7:30, night game at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. Those games are always crazy. The fans come out of nowhere and they're just wild. They're I don't want to say crackheads because they're not drugs, or they're not on drugs, but they're pretty much crackheads. When you play at night in Neyland Stadium and the fans are riding high on their team, you better bring some earplugs because it's going to get loud. You might want to bring some better headphones for your quarterback because he ain't going to be able to hear nothing. He ain't going to hear nothing. What's his name? Matt Corral, I think. He ain't going to hear a word Lane Kiffin is telling him. For one, we lost Lane Kiffin a few years ago to... He left in the middle of the night to go to USC. And then he ended up getting fired from USC like 2 or 3 years later or something like that. He went to Alabama. He was the coordinator under Nick Saban for a year or two. And then he went to Ole Miss. And now he's the head coach and he was FAU head coach last year or 2 years ago. One of those. From FAU to Ole Miss. And now he's, what record are Ole Miss? 4-1, ranked 13th. He's got something coming when he walks into Neyland Stadium. Knoxville, Tennessee fans we've got some hatred toward the Lane train. I can tell you that. But Ole Miss is playing in Knoxville at 7:30, night game with a rowdy Tennessee bunch. I think Tennessee is going to get this win. It might be closer than their first 2 SEC wins, but I think Tennessee is going to get this win 31-28, and they're going to be ranked in the top 25. The power rankings, Georgia number 1, obviously. Bama's number 2, Kentucky's 3, Ole Miss 4, Florida is 5, Texas A&M is 6, Arkansas may be ranked 17th in the nation, but they are 7th in the SEC. Tennessee, they're ranked 8th. They're in 38th in the country, which is pretty good. We're moving up. Mississippi State ranked 32nd. Yeah, well, they're above Tennessee, but they're 9th in the SEC. 29th in nation rankings is Auburn. They're 10th in the SEC. LSU ranked 59th in the nation. Not good at all. They're 11th in the SEC. Ranked 73rd in the nation is Missouri. They're 12th in the conference. 13th in the conference is 78th national rank, South Carolina. And then obviously last in the SEC is Vanderbilt. They are ranked 114th in the nation. That's almost dead last. I mean, you've got 15 teams below you. You're playing better than 15 teams. 15 teams. I mean, that's good for you, but you're last in the SEC. I'm sorry. Okay. I know I talked about stats last week. This video is getting kind of long. For scoring, I'm just going to go with the top 5. Points scored. You've got Alabama at first with 266 points scored. Second is my Tennessee Volunteers with 249 points scored. Third, or the Georgia Bulldogs are below Tennessee in this, with 239. Fourth, Ole Miss, so top 5 in points scored playing tonight, or tomorrow night. They've got 231. And fifth is Missouri, which doesn't surprise me. They always score a lot of points, even if they lose. They've scored 227. Points scored per game. First is Ole Miss with 46.2. Second is Alabama with 44.3. Third, Tennessee with 41.5. That's good for us. I tell you. Fourth is Georgia with 39.8, again below Tennessee. And then fifth, again, is Missouri with 37.8. Defense, points allowed. Georgia have not allowed a lot of points this year. 33 is all they've allowed. Second, 66 points more allowed than Florida. That's not even a close margin. Florida, they've allowed 99 points. Third, Texas A&M, they've allowed 101. It's not bad, not good either. And then fourth, Kentucky Wildcats, 105. Fifth is Auburn with 115. Now, some of you are probably wondering where Tennessee's at. They're seventh. They've allowed 129. We allow points anyway. It's fine. But they're seventh in that department. Points allowed per game. Georgia, they don't even allow double digits per game. They're first, obviously, allowing 5.5 points a game. 5.5. That's not even a touchdown. That's barely more than a field goal. Second goes to the Florida Gators. They've allowed 16.5. Right behind them in third, the Texas A&M Aggies. They've allowed 16.8. 0.3 of a point more than Florida. Fourth, Kentucky Wildcats allowing 17.5 points a game. Fifth is Auburn allowing 19.2 points a game. And for all you wondering, Tennessee is ranked sixth. They've allowed 21.5 points a game. That's not bad. I mean, that's basically we're outscoring our opponents per game 41.5 to 21.5. That's a whole 20 points. I'll take that. We're outscoring our opponents so far. 249 to 129. That's a whole 120 point difference. 120 points. I'll definitely take that any day of the week. Moving on, the SEC stat leaders. This is going to be pretty quick. Offensive leaders, team-wise, yards per game. Ole Miss with 561.6 yards a game. First. Second is Florida Gators with 504.2 yards a game. Third, Tennessee Volunteers, 474 yards. Fourth is Alabama, behind Tennessee. Think about that, with 472.5 yards. Fifth is the Missouri Tigers with 467 yards. Notice Georgia's not in that top five. Is that mind-boggling or what? I mean, it blows my mind a little bit. Passing yards. Mississippi State with 372.4 yards. Second is Alabama Crimson Tide with 310.8. Ole Miss has 302. They're third. Fourth is Missouri Tigers with 296.7. And then fifth goes to the LSU Tigers with 296.2. Rushing yards. First is the Florida Gators with 273.8 on the ground. Just keep this in mind. Ole Miss, 259.6 yards a game. They're in second. Third goes to the Volunteers, baby. 253.7 yards on the ground a game. That's pretty good. That's pretty much Tennessee running football right there. Fourth are the Arkansas Razorbacks with 244.8 yards a game. And then fifth are the Kentucky Wildcats, 212.7. Defensive leaders per team. Points allowed, obviously Georgia at 5.5. I kind of already went over these, but Florida's in second with 16.5, Texas A&M 16.8. I'm going to go over these really quickly. Kentucky with 17.5, and Auburn with 19.2. Yards allowed, Georgia, obviously they've got the number one defense, so they're going to be one in all three of these categories. But they've allowed 201.2 yards a game. Then you got Alabama with 304.2, Kentucky with 305, Mississippi State 318.4, and Florida 319.2. And then sacks, again, obviously Georgia's going to be first with 22 sacks. Now, Florida Gators are in second with 20, so it's not a huge difference, but Georgia's still number one. LSU with 19, and Texas A&M with 19 are tied for third, and then Missouri bringing it up fifth with 17. Offensive leaders individually, you got Will Rogers in the passing world from Mississippi State. He's got 1,862 yards. Bryce Young from Alabama has 1,734. Max Johnson from LSU has 1,730. Connor Bazelak from Missouri has 1,682. And then Matt Corral from Ole Miss has 1,497. He's going to be in Knoxville this weekend. Just remember that. Obviously, I'm a huge Tennessee fan. Rushing yards, you got Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky with 759. Tyler Beatty in second from Missouri with 675. Third is Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama. He's got 526. Fourth is Isaiah Spiller, Texas A&M, 491. And then fifth, Tyon Evans. I don't even know how to say his first name. It's Tyon. Taiwan, I don't know. I'm just going to call him Evans. From Tennessee, 486 yards. Receiving, you've got Wan'Dale Robinson. Pretty sure he was first last week, too. From Kentucky, he's got 527. Traylon Burks from Arkansas has 519. Jamison Williams from Alabama has 510. Kayshawn, I'm going to say Boute, I don't even know how to say his last name either, but he's from LSU. He's got 509. Fifth is Dontario Drummond from Ole Miss. He's got 460. He's going to be in Knoxville too. Just remember that. Individual defensive leaders. For tackles, you've got Damone Clark from LSU. He's got 69 tackles. Nice. Bumper Pool from Arkansas has got 61. Jalen Foster from South Carolina has 52. Tied for fourth are two more Arkansas players. I don't know what this Arkansas defense is doing, but they've got number 2, they've got number 4 and 5, technically. 4 and 5 are tied. But you've got Grant Morgan and Hayden Henry, both from Arkansas, both have 50 tackles. Incredible. Sacks. These first two are both from Florida. You've got Brenton Cox Jr. with 6 and Zachary Carter with 5.5. That means he's got a half of a sack. He shared a sack with somebody. It means they double teamed the quarterback. Third is actually a tie as well. BJ Ojulari. These guys have some weird last names, but he's from LSU. He's got 5. And he's tied with Sam Williams, also with 5 from Ole Miss. He's going to be in Knoxville this week. And then fifth, I'm sorry. I need to change that then. 5. 3. Okay. Anyway, interceptions. Jalen Foster from South Carolina has 4. Jalen McCullough from Tennessee has 3. He's going to be playing against Matt Corral. Monteric Brown from Arkansas, Damani Staley, South Carolina, Roger McCreary from Auburn, tied for 3rd. They've all got 2. I'm pretty sure there's a longer list of players with 2 interceptions after those 3, because McCullough used to be one of those. All right, so far, if the season was to end right now, the player or the teams that would be playing in the SEC championship: Georgia, Florida. Georgia's 4-0 in the conference. Alabama's 2-1, but they're still leading their divisions. Basically, after this weekend, we're gonna know if Georgia's either gonna be in the championship game or not. If they lose to Kentucky, they probably won't, depending on what happens the rest of the season. But as of right now, it's Georgia and Alabama. Alabama's got a 1-point lead over Ole Miss, Auburn, and Mississippi State. Not 1-point lead, a 1-win lead over those 3 teams. Georgia, I'm going to say Georgia and Kentucky are basically tied. They've got a 2-game lead over Tennessee. over Tennessee. They're third. Tennessee's only played one ranked team this year. That was against Florida in the Swamp, and they lost. Georgia's played 3. They're 3-0. Kentucky's played 1. They're 1-0. That was against Florida, by the way. I already said Tennessee. They've played 2 ranked teams. They're 0-1 in the AP polls, 0-2 in the USA polls. Vanderbilt's played 2. They're 0-2 in both of those. That was Georgia and Florida. South Carolina, 0-1 against ranked teams. Who did they play? Oh, that was Georgia, obviously. Alabama, 3-0 against ranked teams. Now you might be thinking, but they just lost to Texas A&M. They're ranked. No, this is at the time ranked teams that they've beaten. They're 3-0. If they would have played Texas A&M this week, yes, it would be 4-0. Ole Miss, they're 1-1. Auburn is 0-2. Mississippi State is 1-0. Arkansas is 2-2 against ranked teams. Texas A&M is 1-1. That win came over Alabama last week. Just know that. And LSU is 0-2 against ranked teams. Now, do I think there's going to be some huge upsets? Yes, of course. There's always upsets in college football. Week 7 is probably not going to disappoint, just like week 1 through 6 has not disappointed. There's been some great games. There's been some terrible games. There's been some upsets. There's been some big wins for ranked teams. There's been some questionable upsets. Oregon did beat Ohio State in the horseshoe, but a win is a win no matter where you're at, no matter how many points you win. They won by 7 in the horseshoe against Ohio State. Alabama lost. There's been some, like I said, some serious questionable upsets. I'm going to try and do a week 7 recap later or earlier in the next week. Probably try and do it Sunday or Monday. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm going to try not to do it Friday and have this long, drawn-out video. The recaps are probably going to be a lot shorter. But week 7, hope you all enjoy it. Just be sure to watch the big games. If you really feel frisky or feisty, watch the Ole Miss at Tennessee game. You might be surprised on what happens in that game. You might be blown away. You might be stunned. You might be shocked. You might be questioning what you're actually watching. But that's going to be a good game. Oklahoma State, Texas, that's going to be a great game. Georgia, Kentucky, that's going to be a great game. All those games could go either way. But I will see you all next week for week 8. But I'll also see you in a few days for week 7 recap. I hope you all enjoy this weekend. Have a great, safe weekend and enjoy some college football. Hey, you might even enjoy some NFL. I'm not a big NFL fan, but I enjoy watching some football. I get to watch the Titans game this year. I'm in Carolina. I don't get to watch them, but I get to watch one this week. They're playing on Monday. It's the only game that's going to be on ESPN. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoy this weekend. Go and watch your favorite teams. I hope you get some wins. Unless you're an Ole Miss fan, I hope your team loses. But enjoy the weekend and have some fun with some friends watching some college football. I'll see y'all next week.